the course of either today or tomorrow, you will be furnished with a contact number that you can call him on officially for your questions so that you can get answers from the President through his spokesperson. And so we are honored to have him here. And with regard to questions here at the State House brief, he will begin to take questions on behalf of the President at the next State House brief, which is 2 weeks from now. We thought today we could focus on introducing him to the country, introducing him to the press corps, and giving you a chance to just get to know him a little bit and to appreciate what a phenomenal gentleman he is. And we look forward to working together with him as we continue to partner with the press corps here. And so allow me, without further ado, to invite Mr. Anthony Kasunda, President Lazarus Chakwera's new acting press secretary, to come and say a few remarks. Mr. Press Secretary, if you will.
Thank you, Sean, for the kind introduction. Indeed, it is a great pleasure to join a dynamic State House Communication Department. I am greatly honored and privileged to serve the President of the Republic of Malawi, Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera, as an acting press secretary. I take the appointment with humility, knowing pretty well that many capable people could also be considered for the position. I am so grateful to His Excellency for the appointment. Colleagues, this is just a matter of introduction. I am one of you. We understand each other. We come a long way. And I want to assure you that I will truly represent you with honor and dignity so that Malawians continue to respect the media in Malawi. As some of you may know, I have been a journalist for over 20 years, and I can attest to the fact that Chakwera is one of the most transparent presidents Malawi has ever had. Why do I say so? In just 1 year, we have witnessed his government enacting the Access to Information Law, which is already in operation. President Chakwera has always been accessible to the media, including us, the local journalists. The openness of the State House to the media is also a milestone. These are just a few examples to demonstrate how transparent the Chakwera administration is, and I am humbled to be part of that legacy. I can comfortably say to you guys, this is the most exciting and the best time to be a journalist in Malawi. And I would like to urge you to make good use of it. We have an opportunity, guys, to raise the bar and show the world that Malawi has the best media. Let us challenge ourselves so that we become relevant to the needs of Malawians. We should use this platform to bring up questions and issues that affect Malawians so that they can be addressed. In this regard, I have a special request this morning. I know there are a lot of what we call in media houses, in newsrooms, sexy and juicy stories that fly around, especially on social media. Let us avoid bringing issues here just for the sensational part of it. Knowing that we do not have much time, we shouldn't waste the little time that we have. It is our opportunity to bring issues that affect the welfare of the citizen. Let us concentrate on issues that, when addressed, can make a difference in our beautiful country. We should also, colleagues, remember that this platform is expected to discuss only issues that are supposed to be addressed by the state president. For issues to do with what is happening in government, in ministries, departments, agencies, we have Honorable Gospel Kazako, Minister of Information and Government Spokesperson, to address those issues. As I conclude, colleagues, I want to say you can do your part to make this platform very productive. We can also do our part, and at the end, we can serve Malawians better. I want to assure you that I will be at your service 24/7. And more so, to assure you that President Chakwera is at your service. I thank you for your attention. And as we proceed with the press briefing, may I request Sean, the Director of Communications, to step forward and address us on what the President has been doing for the past 2 weeks and how his diary looks like in the next 14 days. Sean, please.
Mr. Press Secretary, thank you for your timely reminder of the opportunity we have to serve the Malawian people under the administration of a president that has truly made government visible, audible, as well as sensitive to the voices of the Malawian people, which are ably represented here by members of the press that ask questions on their behalf. On that note, as the press secretary indicated, I do have some updates for you from the President's desk, and we have an administrative update that has to do with official engagements that the President has undertaken or will undertake in the coming days. And then we'll have a development update. As we promised, we would showcase some projects that are taking place as we speak in various parts of the country. Today we have another exciting project that we would like to share with the Malawian people here using this forum. Let me quickly go through the President's administrative engagements. Beginning on Monday, the 6th of September, the President held a cabinet meeting here at Kamuzu Palace, which he convened in exercise of powers vested in him by the Constitution of the Republic, and that took place for the better part of that day. The next day, on Tuesday the 7th of September, the President hosted the EU ambassador designate here at Kamuzu Palace in order to receive his letters of credence. That took place in the morning. But after that, the President also had an engagement with the Minister of Education, Honorable Agnes Nyalonje, in order to get an update on progress being made in some of the efforts to improve the education sector. As you might recall, on May the 12th, the President stood on the floor of Parliament and announced the 3 priorities of his administration for the next 4 years, which are job creation, wealth creation, and food security, but also announced the 3 accelerators that he would be investing in, with his administration in order to speed up the process of reaching those goals. And those three accelerators that he mentioned were governance, infrastructure development, as well as human capital development. Human capital development centers on investments being made in the health sector as well as the education sector. So he's always very keen to have engagements with the ministries that are affected or implementing programs in those sectors. So the President also participated in the afternoon of that day in the first ever Africa-Caribbean Community Virtual Summit. We are familiar with summits for the region, SADC. One was hosted here not too long ago, and it was a fantastic event, very successful, that in the summit that installed President Lazarus Chakwera as chair of SADC, his administration was able to host it here in the capital and put on a great show. All of the delegates that came from the 16 member countries of SADC were in praise of the Malawian people for the amazing job that Malawians did here in the capital city to put on a great show. But there has never been a summit where African countries and Caribbean countries have their heads of state come together. And so countries, 15 countries from the CARICOM region and the 16 member countries from SADC, as well as countries from other parts of Africa, got together. And the President was specifically asked to deliver an address to this prestigious gathering of heads of government and state, which he did. And he's looking forward to seeing further progress made in relations being improved between Africa and the Caribbean community. The Caribbean community has special affinity with Africa because many of the peoples in those in that part of the world trace their descents, ancestral descents to Africa. And so this is, in some respects, a reunion that is the first of its kind. And it's generated a lot of excitement as a result. On Wednesday, the 8th of September, the President had a full day of engagements, including another summit that he was having, the Food System Summit, which was hosted by Kenya. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta was hosting this. And the Minister of Agriculture from Malawi, Honorable Obin Lowe, traveled to Nairobi to be present for the event, but the President participated virtually because he was asked to deliver a progress report on the success of his administration in rolling out the Affordable Inputs Program as well as other programs in the agricultural sector, and how Malawi has done it to increase productivity in the agricultural sector across the board, including some of the exciting things that have happened with other crops outside of maize. And so the President was able to give that report during that summit. The President also had meetings with 2 ministers that day, as is his practice, to stay in touch with ministers of his government and get progress reports on some of the assignments he had tasked them with. On that particular Wednesday, the President met with the Minister of National Unity, Honorable Timothy Mtambo, and also met with Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Eisenhower Mkaka. On Thursday, the 9th of September, the President left the capital to head east to the district of Mangochi. And while he was there on Friday the 10th, he was the guest of honor at the Society of Medical Doctors annual general conference, general meeting which they were holding there in Mangochi. I believe it was their 9th annual general meeting at Nkopola Lodge. And the President delivered his address in which he made specific commitments to roll out a robust program to improve health facilities here in the country, and indicated some of the work that he and his team have been doing to improve certain areas of concern, such as recruitment of staff and the consolidation of issues of procurement of medicines and securing of the same in our health facilities so that there are no needless losses as a result of negligence. And so the President indicated the work that they are doing as an administration, he and his ministers and government officials, to close those loopholes. The President returned to the capital on Saturday, the 11th of September, and made a few stops along the way where he found crowds that had gathered to greet him. And so the President was quite excited to come face to face with the Malawian people and interact with them, interacting with their chiefs, their religious leaders, and so forth. So the President returned on that Saturday. This coming week, the President is having a particular focus on some of his paperwork on his desk. You remember we had indicated that the President will not be traveling to New York because there are matters that he needs to attend to in the same 2 weeks in which he was going to be traveling to New York. And so the President makes his decisions as required by law, by signature, and annotations that he makes on memos that are brought to him from all of the MDAs across the government. Ministers send memos to the President telling him issues that have arisen and asking him to make a decision, and he makes that decision in writing with his signature because that's what the Constitution requires. And just because those decisions are not always announced does not mean that they are not happening. The President makes a number of decisions every day in writing, and then those memos are returned to the various MDAs for execution. So when you see a ministry carrying out an activity, often it is because the President has made a decision and given them a directive to execute said program or project. And so there are a number of such that the President needs to attend to, and so he has those on his desk and is going to be committing a significant amount of his time to clearing those issues. Also, the President is only not traveling to the United Nations General Assembly. Does not mean he is not participating. He is going to participate virtually. The President is actually attending several events, and so he's going to be using his time this week to make some preparations to prepare himself for participation in the UN General Assembly and other related events. The general debate of the UN General Assembly, as you know, starts in 8 days, so it's not too far away. But even prior to that, there are other events that the President is participating in. There is a food system summit that the President is participating in. That's on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. He's going to participate in that virtually. The President will address the UN General Assembly. We will furnish you with details of when his address to the UN General Assembly will be delivered, but he's going to spend time this week preparing for that. As you know, he will be addressing the entire international community, and the President has always made it clear from the beginning that Malawi has something to say about global affairs. Even global issues such as climate change are things the President believes Malawi needs to be heard on, because activities that happen in other parts of the world affect the climate and weather patterns here at home. And so the President is going to be doing those things this week in preparation for those upcoming events. Also, just to inform you that Malawi has been honored by the Africa American Institute with this year's prize. The Africa American Institute gives a prestigious prize every year to a country that the Institute believes its people have made a significant contribution to the cause of democracy. And this year's honorees by the Africa American Institute are the Malawian people. And so the President has been asked to accept this award to the Malawian people on behalf of the Malawian people. And on the 21st of September, on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly there in New York, a gala will be held in honor of the Malawian people to give Malawians this award and this recognition. And the President will attend that function virtually, and he will deliver an acceptance address to the delegates who will be gathered from all over the world in order to pay this special honor to the Malawian people for the resilience Malawians across the country from north to south showed over the course of the last 2 years in order to consolidate the cause of democracy here as well as for the free world. So that's going to be another event the President will participate in virtually on the side of the UN General Assembly. And so those are some of the focus areas for the President this week, and so that ends our update on the President's diary, because that coming week, I know the Press Secretary said I'll give you an update for 2 weeks, but the second week after this one is when the President will be engaged in those virtual events, because then the UN General Assembly debate would have begun, and so he will be doing that. And so allow me to quickly just give you an opportunity to see the progress that President Chakwera's administration has made on the project in the Southern Valley there in Nsanje district. And there is a road that the President had been told about, a road that affects the lives of many people in the Lower Shire Valley, and the President and his administration prioritize making progress on that development project. And we have some footage to show you of some of the progress that has been made and the sentiments of the people of the Nsanje district to this President on the occasion of the progress being made on this road. And so we have that footage ready. If we could share that with the Malawian people now, please.
19 Dr. Lazarus Chakwera yemwe lero lino ndi president wa dziko lino adadutsa pa msewu uno kupita kumusi kwa Tiyendemera kumeneko amakagawa za relief, koma popita komanso pobwerera adachona pa msewu uno potengera ndi vuto la msewu nthawi imeneyo, ndipo adalonjeza kwa anthu akuno ku Lower Shire kunena kuti ine Lazarus Chakwera mukandivotera kukhala president ndidzakumangirani msewu. Lero lino tikudzachitira umboni pa ntchito yapamwamba kwambiri yomanga msewu wa Nsanje Malaka imene President Lazarus Chakwera akuchita kuno ku Nsanje.
Tikuthokoza kwakukulu kwambiri chifukwa cha msewu, timaona ngati maloto chabe. Munthawi imeneyo zapangidwa msewu watala, koma timaona ngati maloto chabe. Koma soto onadi zinthu zikuchitika.
Msewu umenewu tithandiza njira zambiri kuboma lino la Nsanje. Wani anthu amavutika kuchokera kuno kuboma kupita ku Malaka, komanso kuchoka ku Malaka kubwera kuno kuboma. Kunali chinthu chovuta kwambiri makamaka kakhala kuti nthawi ya mvula.
Msewu umene ukamala unatithandiza chifukwa poyambapo kayendedwe tikavutika. Nonga mayendedwe ena aja akhathulwa pa machira kupita, koma pakadali pano mmene tikuonera kuti wadwala kani mzimayi wakuyembekezera kungochita njinga moto kandi upita kuchipatala kufika bwinobwino upanda chovuta chilichonse.
Ntchito manga msewu wa Nsanje Malaka ikuyenda bwino kwambiri panopa, mmene mwaonera mapita masection angapo mmene mwaonera ntchito madera ambiri tayamba kuthira tala tasala ndi madera ochepa amene tikuyika doti amene ali maleya zomalizira athu a msewu. Ndi amalawi okwana 230 chakuti amene anapindula pa project iyi.
Apapa palibenso chikayikiro china chilichonse chifukwa contractor amene anapatsidwa kuti agwire ntchito iyi panopa ali mchigawo chokuti akugwirapo ntchito pamalo pamene anapatsidwa kuti agwire ntchito. Komanso ndikuwatsimikizira anthu akunoko kuti boma ilili layikapo chidwi kwambiri pa chitukuko cha misewu iyi.
Pakati pa msewu umenewu pakumangidwa bridge yodabwitsa kwambiri, bridge yaitali. Bridge imeneyi mmene mukuonera kuno kuchoke doti lochuluka kwezeka pamwambapo, ndipo pansi pa bridge imeneyi padutsa njanje, kotero stima zizikhala zikudutsa.
Ayi zili bwino kwambiri ndipo mwapaderadera ndikuwathokoza kwambiri state president Dr. Lazarus Chakwera chifukwa chakumati yanganabe kuno Nsanje kuti kusakhale chimodzimodzi kusinthe.
Congratulations to the people of Nsanje for the progress being made. Those projects, my project ngati amenewo sangachitike popanda support yochokera kwa anthu akuderalo. Ndiye mama President Chakwera timati tithokoze kwa anthu onse amene ali ku Nsanje amene akuthandizana ndi anthu ma contractor amene ali kumeneko kuti ntchito imene iyende ndipo mwatilimbikitsa anthu ngati amayi Erufe amene takuonani pa video yakanema popereka umboni kuti zinthu zimenezi nzothandiza chitukuko cha dera limenelo. Ndiye tikuthokozeni chifukwa chitukukocho chikutheka chifukwa cha inu Amalawi. Misonkho yanu ndi imene ikupangitsa kuti ntchito imeneyi ipite patsogolo. Zikomo kwambiri. Pano tsopano ndipereke mpata kwa tolankhani amene asonkhana pano kuti afunse nawo mafunso. Your questions, members of the press. Yes, sir. If you could introduce yourself and could we furnish the gentleman with the microphone, the media house you represent, and then your question.
Thank you very much, Sean. Ndifusanchijewa. Zina langa ndine Love Mukomo kujogera.
If you could speak up.
Zina langa ndine Love Mukomo kujogera ku Furu FM. Amalawi akudikirabe malingana ndi report ya public sector reforms. Mina tempekeze kuti mtsogoleri wa dziko lino achitapo kanthu liti zikomo kwambiri funso ndilomweli.
Report ya public sector reform anakamba kale ya President Chakwera. Mukumbukira kuti President Chakwera anapita ku London ku msonkhano okhuzana ndi zamaphunziro. Ndikhulupirira mukumbukira zimenezo Love Moe. Pobwera ku London ko President anachititsa msonkhano wa atolankhani pa airport. Ndipo funso lomwe amafunsa lero anafunsidwanso. Ndipo tsiku limenelo President anayankha motere. President ananena kuti ripoti yopanga improve public sector si ripoti yoti igwiritsidwe ntchito ndi munthu mmodzi, chifukwa kupanga reform public sector ndi ntchito ya atsogoleri onse amene akutsogolera ma department osiyanasiyana mboma. Ndi President ananena kuti ntchito yomwe kuchitika pano ndiyokambirana pakati pa atsogoleri amene akutsogolera ma department ndi maunduna osiyanasiyana kuti akakambirana za reform report imeneyi. Chifukwa mukumbukira kuti reform report iyo anayitanitsa ndi President. President anauza achiwiri awo Vice President Dr. Saulos Klaus Chilima kuti apange task force. Task force imeneyo ipange kafukufuku iwunikire public sector yonse. Ndipo ma areas oti awunikiridwe anapereka sonde ya President. Chifukwa President anachita kunena kuti tikamakamba za public sector reform ndimaona ngati muwunikire madera awa ndi awa. Mukumbukira President anachula pagulu madera ama allowance, madera ama contract, madera a procurement ya ma contract osiyanasiyana. Komanso President anachulapo nkhani ya restructuring. Anachita kuwapatsa ntchito imeneyi mochula specifically ma areas amene akuyenera kuti atani awunikiridwe. Ndi ntchito ija inagwirika ndipo President iso ananena kuti ntchito inagwirika bwino. Chifukwa tsiku limenelo President anayamikira achiwiri awo pa ntchito yomwe anayigwira kuwunikira mmene President ananenera komanso kubweretsa report. Report ija pamene abwera chifukwa choti ripoti iyo ndiyokhuza reform ya public sector yonse, ndipo public sector chaku Malawi nchachikulu. Zinthu zopanga reform public sector sizingayende ngati anthu amene amatsogolera ma department osiyana-siyana kapena maunduna osiyana-siyana sana chilandire kukhala kuti iwowo achitengera umwini kuti izizi zilumuzi nafenso tayikapo maganizo athu, chifukwa kukonza public sector sangakhale maganizo a president okha, sangakhale maganizo a vice president okha, sangakhale maganizo a task force yokha. Njofunika kuti onse amene amatsogolera ma department osiyana-siyana akhale ndi umwini pa chinthu chimenecho. Ngati iwo ogwira ntchito mmenemo mbomamo ali ndi maganizo oti akhoza kuonjezera mmenemo chakuti chinthu chija chipangidwe improve, chifukwa iwo ntchito yogwira mu public sector amayidziwa ndi iwowo ndipo akhala kuigwira nthawi yayitali, maganizo amene aja amvedwe kuti report imeneyo akhale ndi maganizo anthu amene akukhuzidwa ndi nkhaniyo. Da president anafotokoza tsiku limenelo kuti izizi zomati tulutsani chiripoti kumakhala kusamvetsetsana, koma tikakhala mwachifatse ndikumvetsetsana kuti zinthu zikuti ziyenera bwanji, ziyenera ziyende bwanji. Dongosolo lake ndilokuti ntchito imeneyo kuti izayende ndekuti anthu onse amene ali ndi udindo wopanga implement ma recommendation amenewo ayenera nawo akhale ndi umwini pa zimene zili mmenemo, ndipo umwini umenewo ndiofunika kuti nawonso maganizo awo amvedwe report imene isanayambe kutani kugwiritsidwa ntchito. Na president nzomwe anafotokoza tsiku limenelo zomveka bwino, zopanda mavuvu, palibe nkhondo ina iliyonse, dongosolo chabe kuti zinthuzo ziyende. Ifuna kutheka kuti chinthucho kuchivunga kugulu, koma ntchito yomwe ikuyenera kuchitika osayenda chifukwa kuti anthu amene ali ndi maudindo ogwiritsa ntchito zimene zija kuti zichitikedi. Chifukwa chofunikira kwambiri sikuwerenga dokumenti kuti mwalembedwa chani, chikufunikira kwambiri kuti zinthu zimene zinalembedwazo zimene onse agwirizana kuti izi nzomveka bwino, izi zili bwino, izi nzosatheka, izi sizinayembedwe bwino, akagwirizana onse amene ali ndi udindo aliyense akhale ndi umwini tsopano oonetsetsa kuti zimenezo zichitikedi. Chifukwa public sector reform sipepala, public sector reform ndi ntchito yokonza mabungwe aboma kuti azigwira ntchito bwino kuposera kale. Ndiyankhe choncho. Let's go to the lady in the back.
My name is Audrey Kabaramula from Times, and I have a few questions to ask. The first one, I just wanted to understand, in the last meeting or the last briefing, you indicated that the president was discussing with the various stakeholders to find out a way forward on the rising of fertilizer prices. So considering that we are getting closer to the growing season, just wanted to find out what's the update so far. Is there any solution towards that? And the second one, it's to do with AIP. Last time the president said no one will be removed from the AIP list, and looking at the cost of doing that, maybe it may go over 70 billion to implement that. So we just wanted to find out, is the president considering a supplementary budget to take care of the rising fertilizer costs? And the last one, we're just curious to know, recently the president also mentioned that Malawians should start changing their diets by moving away from relying on maize only. But then the Tonse administration is also investing much in terms of maize production. Is the president not contradicting himself on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. Those are legitimate questions. I thank you for asking an issue that is very central to the president's agenda, which has to do with food security, as well as an issue that is very close to the heart of the Malawian people. Sometimes we we claim to speak on behalf of Malawians by focusing on issues that are actually very low on their list of priorities. But the issue of food security and the AIP and fertilizer prices, if you go anywhere in the country, you will find that this is an issue that is very high on the list of priorities for the Malawian people. And that's also the reason the President, His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, spoke on this issue himself 2 or 3 weeks ago. On the Sunday that the President left for official duties in the north of the country, he issued a statement via the state broadcaster where he made that declaration that as far as he was concerned, I believe his exact language was, no single household or community that benefited from AIP would lose out on benefiting from the program this year. Additionally, the President also did acknowledge in that statement that while he decried the exorbitant pricing of fertilizer and was going to be addressing the same to make sure that fertilizer is made available to farming households in Malawi, the subsidized fertilizer that the administration is working on providing to those households was still going to be not only made available cheaply, but he did indicate that because of global prices in fertilizer having gone up, there would be a slight increase, likely reflecting that, that global pricing. But what he rejected was that the increase justified the exorbitant skyrocketing of the fertilizer price that we were seeing on the market. It is also worth noting that following the President making that statement, there was a positive response from some suppliers of fertilizer beginning to reduce their prices, because it means that when the President delivered that address, they took him seriously because he looked into that camera and he delivered in no uncertain terms. He did not stutter. He made it clear that anybody that wants to make Malawian farmers suffer was poking the eye of the President, and that the President takes that personally because he vowed that one of the things he would fight for is the well-being of farmers in this country. And so the President, he was formidable in his remarks, and it is satisfying to him that he was taken seriously by the market and the reductions began to take effect. However, he did also say, and this is, I think, both to your first and second question, he did also say in that address, if you recall, that he was going to be discussing these issues and creating solutions to the problem of fertilizer pricing as well as AIP sustainability with his administration. And that is work that the President is currently doing. And he had also said that once those discussions and resolutions have been completed, there would be a statement to the Malawian people from the administration on what has been resolved, and that obviously would be made before the farming season gets underway. And so the Malawian people can look forward to the President keeping his word when he said that once he has consulted with his administration and they have made a resolution on this matter, then the responsible ministries, which would be agriculture and information, would issue statements articulating to the Malawian people what precisely has been resolved to guarantee affordable farm inputs for farmers. I think that allows me to sort of segue into your final questions regarding maize. Yes, the President did make the sentiments regarding the need to diversify the diet across the country. It would be unfair to characterize the President's statement as being against maize consumption per se. He did say that Malawian people are free to eat whatever they like, including Nsima. He just challenged all Malawians to begin gradual, incremental reductions. I guess it wouldn't be incremental if it's reductions, but gradual reductions in the consumption of Nsima. And as you know, even in the previous year, there was a bumper crop in maize production. And that bumper crop has enabled Malawi to do other things with the maize other than eat it. And so there is no contradiction. There are countries that produce crops that they do not consume. Malawi can produce maize without consuming any of it. This happens all the time. We have a cash crop here called tobacco. We do not consume that crop. And so producing a crop and consuming are two separate issues, and I think it might misrepresent the president's position to conflate the two. The president is not against maize production. The president is for it because even if we didn't eat an Nsima or consume any of the maize, there are still markets for that maize produce. The president is rather encouraging diversification of the foods we consume, which is a separate issue entirely. Next question, please. Yes, sir. And then I will come to you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Alinafe Mlamba. I'm from Zodiac.
Alinafe
Mlamba.
from Zodiac?
I have a set of questions from Zodiac.
Zodiac.
Yes. The first one, I just want to find out what is the position of the president regarding the situation on drugs in public hospitals. What is the position of the president regarding the situation on drugs in hospitals? And also, I would like
regarding the situation on
drugs.
Drugs.
Yes.
Okay. In hospitals.
Yes.
Okay.
And also, I would like to find out what is his position regarding emerging proposal for increased legal protection for the poor and the vulnerable.
Legal protection.
I also want to find out if a decision has yet been made on the proposal for government to buy fertilizer straight from manufacturers.
To buy what? To buy what?
Fertilizer.
Fertilizer. Right.
Yes. And I would also like to find out why is there a continued difference in opinion between President Chakwera and his minister, Lobin Lowe, on the exact number of beneficiaries of the EIP. Further to that, we want to find out, shall the president go into his second year in office without a new cabinet? As it is, it's almost a year and a half now. And I also want to find out what are the exact steps that the Chakwera administration is taking to ease the economic hardships on the ground. And Malawi has received close to 1 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. We have not yet bought a single dose, as it is, from a manufacturer yet. And if we look at the situation on the ground, the immunity is pegged at inoculation of 13 million citizens. What should we expect from the Chakwera administration? And lastly, the Public Affairs Committee was recently at the State House raising issues of national appeal. We just want to find out how is Chakwera responding to those items that we brought to him. Thank you.
You're sure you're done? I didn't have it. Fair enough. I see that I am to take no other questions from any other journalist today. How many was that? Did you count them? 9 questions. 9 questions. I have 9 minutes to answer 9 questions from Zodiac. I believe the first for me to dispose of is the fertilizer issue. I think what I said previously applies to that question. The question related to whether the government is going to buy fertilizer directly from suppliers or not. I would not want to prejudice the statement that the President said his ministers will give on the resolutions made on all matters related to fertilizer procurement and supply. So that particular question, we just have to wait for that particular statement. On issues to do with PAC, the President had a very, very positive interface with PAC members who came to see him. It is worth saying, as we have said before, that the President on the 9th of June had sent a message to PAC for them to touch base with Malawians across the country and get a sense of their areas of concern, so that the President is always attending to matters that Malawians care about, rather than for his office to be under siege by interest groups that want to lobby for their agenda. Ultimately, he's here to serve the Malawian people, and he likes to hear their views directly, and he felt that PAC would be a great partner in consolidating those points of view. So when he had an interaction with PAC, the President was very excited to hear from the Malawian people, as he always is, and he did give his commitment to attending to all of those issues that they raised in that, and that when the President, because now once the way things work is, once the Malawian people who employed the President and elected him into office tell the President to work on something, the President's preference is to then focus on working on those things and then to give a report on progress when he has a report, rather than for him to be talking when he is in the middle of addressing those issues. So that's the current status of those issues. He is working on those things, and he will speak on those issues or give an update to the country when he has produced some results, as is the case in any worker-employee relationship such as the one that exists between the President and the Malawian people. You asked the question related to vaccines. Said Malawi has not bought vaccines, but we have received vaccines, I believe just over 1 million doses as of the end of this month. We have 360,000 doses of AstraZeneca coming in the course of the next 2 weeks, as well as 372,000 Pfizer vaccines that are also coming. Both of those are 2-dose vaccines, and sometimes the characterization of the vaccine issue as one where Malawi has not bought vaccines can create the impression that the Malawian government is not spending any money on vaccines. And I think it's important for the Malawian people to know that for every dose of vaccine that comes, whether donated or otherwise, the Malawian government needs to spend $5 of its own money, $5 to get that dose to the arm of a Malawian who needs to be protected from COVID-19. So if we're saying that by the end of this month, Malawi would have passed 1 million doses, regardless of the fact that those doses were donated, no money was donated to deliver that vaccine to the Malawian people. The Malawian government, under the leadership of President Lazarus Chakwera, has to fork out that money. And so 1 million doses means the Malawian government has to spend $5 million to get that dose of vaccine to your arm so that you have protection from COVID-19. And that's important to say in the broader context of the conversation about whether the Malawian government is spending money on vaccines or not. And yes, avenues are always being explored by the Chakwera administration on the procurement of additional vaccines. But it is also important to say that the President has decried, both here in Malawi as well as international fora such as SADC. His SADC address spoke on this issue, as well as statements he has made elsewhere, such as on his recent trip to London, where he has decried the inequalities in vaccine access as well as vaccine production. And so dosage procurement and securing dosage for vaccines is like an immediate short-term solution. But ultimately, the president has made it clear that he needs to work with his counterparts in the region and elsewhere on providing access to production grants and licensing for vaccines to be produced here in Africa for the African nations, because the capacity to produce vaccines here exists in other countries. And with regard to rollout of the vaccine program, comparatively, Malawi is actually doing quite well compared to other countries in similar conditions within the region. And so the viability of purchasing vaccines is something that's always being explored. There are logistical issues related to that also need to be dealt with. But it's not something the president is opposed to, but it needs to be framed in such a way that we are not creating the impression to the Malawian people that the Malawi government is not spending any money to get them vaccinated, because that's just simply not the case. The issue to do with conflicting statements between the president and his Minister of Agriculture, I believe that contradiction in statement is only apparent, but I don't think that there is any contradiction in terms of policy. And that's the thing that actually matters. What matters is not public statements that are made by the minister and how those are interpreted by different sectors. What matters is what is the policy being implemented to serve the Malawian people. And when you look at the policy of the government with regard to AIP beneficiaries, how many beneficiaries, how is that going to be rolled out, the government of Malawi under the leadership of President Lazarus Chakwera is in sync. And so these things that I have just outlined here are things that the president supports, and if you talk to the minister, you will find that he supports the same as well. And so, we don't want to create a situation where we create conflicts where none exists in policy, because ultimately government is run by policy implementation. And the government of Malawi under President Lazarus Chakwera has a policy on affordable inputs program, and that policy is being implemented without any contradiction whatsoever in any members of the administration. And that's why I am not addressing issues of the program here, because there is going to be a consolidated statement from the entire administration of President Lazarus Chakwera, which will be issued in days to come. I don't believe I got to all of your questions, but unfortunately those are all of the minutes I have time for. I am happy to talk to you afterwards on the sidelines of this event so that I can also tackle some of the others that you raised. But on that note, I want to thank all of you for coming. I thank the Malawian people for coming to watch and to follow and to track these. I also want to thank the media houses that allow us to have 1 hour of airtime for free. And so I wish to not take any more of that airtime than you have given us. I thank you.